Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inna alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Good evening, everybody. Inshallah ta'ala. Welcome to Friday Night Fiqh here with the True Akida platform. If y'all are watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. On Facebook, follow us on Facebook, the True Akida of the Salaf. Alhamdulillah, we like to focus on Aqidah, Fiqh, and we have been incorporating Tasawwuf as of lately. But right now, we're getting through Aqidah and Fiqh according to the righteous predecessors or the pious predecessors. So, inshallah ta'ala, support the content. We'll keep it coming. Bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. And this evening, we have another kind of short lesson. It's about Haid. It's about a female menses. It's kind of difficult, and there's not a lot written about it. And I chose to move away from the Akhdari just for this section because the translation of the Akhdari that I've had is not the best, and Arabi is beyond my scope of comprehension at this point. Um, I mean, I can make it out, but I would not like to make a mistake and then convey a mistake. So, Alhamdulillah, I was able to find a beautiful outline of the menses, the female menses, as y'all can see on the screen from the Markaz Imam Malik, headed by our beloved Sheikh Zuhair Kazan, Alhamdulillah, Hafidhullah, excuse me. He is the sheikh of one of my shuyukh, alhamdulillah, Saifullah, Steelboat. So, alhamdulillah, we'll just jump straight into it. I'll read the outline. I will not have time to get to the questions live stream. So if y'all have questions throughout the presentation, just throw them in the comments, inshallah ta'ala. I'm always checking the statuses. I'm checking the comments. So I'll be able to get back with y'all, inshallah ta'ala. And if I do not know the answer, then I will, inshallah ta'ala, ask my authorities, and we will, everybody be good, inshallah. So make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. And inshallah ta'ala, we are going to get right in it. Bismillah. So I'm just going to read through this because they explained it pretty well. And a couple of his students, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve them. One of his higher up students, alhamdulillah, we also share another sheikh, Sheikh Rami and Sood. He's one of Sheikh's Rami and Sood's biggest students. He helped put this together. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them for this beautiful effort, because this is a difficult topic, the fiqh of menses. I haven't found a lot written about it, and honestly, I haven't spent a lot of time in this area. I'm not a woman, so um, I mean, even though I have women in my house, so this is it's somewhat obscure when it comes to fiqh. So this was a great effort that they put together to get this out here to us. So shout out to them, alhamdulillah, and they made it available for the general public. And if anybody needs the link, inshallah ta'ala, I will copy the link to this and put it in the comments. That way everybody can have it. I know a lot of sisters watch this platform, so alhamdulillah, you'll have this. It's a perfect outline. It's the best I've seen so far. So I'm just going to read through it, and everything is pretty much self-explanatory the way that they put it. So inshallah ta'ala, like I said, put your comments whenever you have your question, whenever you have a question, and inshallah, we'll get with you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A Google search on Islam and menstruation yields unclear and sometimes contradictory information with few sources available in English for Maliki fiqh. Learning the fiqh related to acts of worship is part of our fardh ayn, a person's individual obligations. Knowledge of the fiqh of menstruation is pertinent, especially for women, as lack of knowledge in this area can jeopardize one's worship. It is also important for men to study and teach the women in their family and beware of of what they can the rulings of what they can and can't do when a wife is in haid. Please consult a local scholar for specific individualized questions. So, what is haid? Haid is often translated as menstruation, but there is a distinction between the medical and fiqhi definition of menstruation. The medical definition of menstruation roughly means the shedding of the uterus lining. The fiqhi definition of haid refers to vaginal bleeding that, number one, is not caused by injury or medication, i.e., it is untriggered, and two, does not come from a young girl or postmenopausal woman. Color, the color of the menses. The color of haid can only be the following: yellow, orange, red, brown, or brownish black. Next, istihada is abnormal bleeding, i.e., any bleeding that does not meet the fiqh definition of haid. When express when experiencing istihada, what's prohibited during haid does not apply to a woman. A woman resumes praying, fasting, etc. So a lot of people don't know about istihada. A woman can have bleeding from the vaginal area that is not considered her menses. So it is to be considered istihada, and it's going to define that as well. Also, as far as a lot of people don't know that bleeding from bleeding if a woman is on birth control and she's having some type of bleeding, that is also called istihada. That's not considered menses. Um, um, that is a fatwa from one of my shuyukh, Ismail Cartier. So just keep note of that. If you are on birth control and you have any type of bleeding, most of the time it's kind of light or spotty, but which still would, in any normal circumstances uh, you are when you're not on any type of medication or whatnot, as mentioned before, when we started this, that is not considered menses. It is istihada, and you would pray, fast, and be normal for the most part. Um, Going further, excuse me, purity. Everything besides haid includes istihada and no bleeding. That's pretty self-explanatory. Next, how to calculate haid and its length. Some things to keep in mind about length. There is no minimum haid length. Even one drop of blood is considered haid, menses. In between haid cycles, there must be at least 15 days of tuhur, or purity. Next, 1 day equals from fajr to the next fajr. So a full complete day is from fajr to fajr. That's a calculation, and it's going to break down the calculations as well. Next, you start counting the number of days from the first fajr after the bleeding begins. From the first fajr after the bleeding begins. An example, number one, bleeding begins right before fajr on December 2nd and continues till dhuhr on December 10th. Excuse me. The first fajr after the bleeding begins on the fajr of December 2nd. So we count days 2 through 9, as 9 days. The haid is, quote unquote, 9 days. Example number two, the bleeding starts at dhuhr time on December 1st and continues until Dhuhr on December 10th. The first Fajr after the bleeding begins is the Fajr of December 2nd, not the first. So we count 2 days. Well, excuse me, we count days number 2 and 10 as 9 days. The Hayd is again, quote, 9 days in total. Hope that makes sense. When it comes to calculating maximum period or Hayd length, there are three categories of women: a woman in her first Hayd, a regular or a regular or a woman who has already had her Hayd, and a pregnant woman. These are the three categories. A woman in her first Hayd, ruling up to 15 days of bleeding, can be considered her Hayd. Anything beyond this is considered istihada, which is what is not considered the female menses. Scenario number one, she has less than 15 days of bleeding. Her Hayd ends when the bleeding stops. She does ghusl and then she prays. Scenario number two, she has more than 15 days of bleeding. Her Hayd ends at day 15. She does ghusl and can pray. Any further bleeding is considered istihada, or it is not menstruation. Case studies. Sarah starts her first Hayd and sees blood for 9 days. So, somebody's young or whatnot. This is giving an example of when it very, very first starts. Her Hayd would be 9 days. Another example. Zainab starts her Hayd and sees blood for 15 days. Her Hayd was 15 days. Aisha starts her Hayd and sees blood for 17 days. Her Hayd is 15 days again, and she had 2 days of istihad. So to sum that up, um, starting out, going straight through. So what a woman wants to do, or a lady wants to do, is to establish some type of regularity of her menses. So for a young girl who is starting out, she doesn't have any regularity. So when she first starts out, that first stint of her menses would be her establishment of regularity, if that makes sense. So, and refer back to these examples with that explanation, inshallah. More detailed case studies. Maryam starts her first Hayd right before Fajr on December 1st and continues until after Fajr on December 9th. We start counting days from the first Fajr after her Hayd begins. The first Fajr after the bleeding begins is the Fajr of December 1st. So we count days 1 to 9 as days. So since the Fiqh rule is, it's counted from Fajr to Fajr. Since in this scenario, Maryam started just before Fajr, on December 1st, then that we would count that day. Now, if she didn't, then we would not count that day, as we're going to see going forward in these examples. Here's a very, very, very nice graph to kind of display an example. It's a very, very, very nice graph. Even the color is nice. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve our shuyukh. I mean, other scenarios. Fatima starts her Hayd and sees blood from Dhuhr on December 1st till Asr on December 9th. Her Hayd would be 8 days from December 2nd to December 9th. So it started later in the day on December 1st. So since it didn't start before Fajr, it's not calculated as a day. Next, Hafsa starts her first Hayd and sees blood from Dhuhr on December 1st till the Asr on December 16th. her haid is 15 days from December 2nd to December 16th. So again, we have a scenario where her menses started after the Fajr time, so we don't count that particular day. So even though she would stop, everything right then and there, but as far as the regularity or to count the days or whatnot, um, we would the actual day would start on the second, and if it continued until the 16th, we know that there can only be a maximum of well, this isn't that example in that case, so we don't have to talk about that right now, but they're going to that this next example. So she stopped on there was 15 days instead of there being 16 days, even though she started on the first. Nur starts the first Hayd and sees blood from Dhuhr on December 1st till Asr on December 17th. Anything beyond 15 days is istihada. Her Hayd is 15 days from December 2nd to December 16th. So as we can see here, there was actually 16 days in her counting. So we know the rule is the maximum that the haid or the menses could be is 15 days. So since it went past that maximum time period, that other day was considered istihada, she would make ghusl whenever it stopped and go ahead and pray and fast and continue her normal life until the bleeding stops after that. Next, the examples of a regular woman or a mature woman who has already had her first menses. This is probably the case for most readers. The maximum duration of her haid is the longest haid duration to date, plus 3 days, as long as this total does not exceed 15 days. Any bleeding past this is istihada, so she does ghusl and resumes praying. Case study number one. Normally, Aisha has, I almost said radiallahu ta'ala anha. I'm just so used to saying that after the name Aisha. So Aisha has a 3-day haid. Normally, she has a 3-day haid. But the longest haid she has ever had to date was 4 days. This means that this month, her haid can be a maximum of 4 days plus 3 days, which is 7 days this month. So she bleeds for 7 days. Her haid is 7 days. And after this, she does ghusl and resumes praying. So what this means is that, like, so if say it's if her haid is normally 3 days, or let's say 4 days in this example, she would add 3 days to that regularity. If there was some irregularity in her cycle, so she's normally bleeding 3-4 days or whatnot, then she would just add 3 days to that, to her normal cycle, just in case she has any irregularity in her bleeding. So since it's most of the time 4 days, then she could say she bled for a fifth day or a sixth day. We know that she's still in her grace period of 7 days because she added 3 to the 4, which is her normal menses, which is what is known for her normal calculation. Now that she has had a haid of 7 days, her maximum duration of her haid in the future is 7 plus 3 days, which equals 10 days. So, say if it was 4 before, and then she went ahead and irregularly bled into the 7th day, then at that point, that is her new quote unquote regular or maximum regularity. That's what I'm trying to say. And so going forward, if she bled for 4 days and then she stopped, then she's fine. But she would know that 7 days, she has now a regularity of 7 days. So say she bled for an eighth day or a ninth day, she would be within her the context of her um, regular irregularity. So you just add 3 to your new regularity. So if she bled for an eighth or a ninth day, and even a 10th day, then she would still be fine, and anything after that, she would be done. Case study number 2: the longest haid Zainab had to date was 7 days. This January, she bleeds for 10 days. Her haid is 10 days. Zainab's longest previous haid is 10 days. In February, she bleeds for 14 days. Her haid is only 10 plus 3 days, which is 13 days, and the 14th day is istihada. So we just explained this. So that was just another example. And here's a nice chart that exemplifies it. Moving forward, Zainab's longest previous haid is 13 days. In March, she bleeds for 16 days. Her haid will only be 15 days because the maximum duration of haid is always capped at 15 days. The 16th day is considered istihada, and for the rest of her life, the maximum duration of her haid will be 15 days. So that would establish a new regularity for her period, because 15 is as far as you could possibly go in the eyes of fiqh. So that would, if that ever happened, then that would mean it's established that her days is 15 days. Anything after that is obviously a cutoff, because 15 is the max. Next, we have a pregnant woman. While pregnant women do not experience medical menstruation, you'll notice that they can experience fiqh menstruation based on the definition we gave earlier. The ruling of their haid depends on the month of their pregnancy. Months 1 to 2, they are the same as a non pregnant woman and should refer to the above 2 categories depending on if they are a first timer or a regular. So just keep everything the same. For months 3 to 5, her maximum number of days of haid is 20, between 3 and 5, with the same case scenarios. In months 6 plus, her maximum days of haid is 30, and with the same scenarios. So instead of 15, 3 to 5, it would be 20. And instead of 15, with a woman that is 6 months or more pregnant, her maximum would be 30. And then everything after that is, hopefully nobody's bleeding after that, would be istihada. The tools of calculation. Some scholars today also recommend keeping track of your period using an app, journal, or a means you prefer. Tracking your period helps you ensure that you're properly calculating when your haid starts and ends, so you know when to fulfill obligations like praying and fasting. It also makes it easier when you're asking an alim or an alima about personalized situations. What is impermissible and permissible during her haid? The following is not permissible for a woman experiencing haid. She cannot pray, fast, perform tawaf if she was to go to Umrah or Hajj, uh, touching a mushaf unless she is learning or teaching the Quran, uh, and entering a masjid. This is not just a musalla area, but also includes areas traditionally considered a masjid, like the entrance before the musalla area. However, in larger masajid, the community center, the gym, and school areas would not be considered part of the masjid. And I would just, consult with somebody locally, and depending on how your masjid is structured, So with just know that fiqh ruling is there, but definitely consult with the people at your local masjid, the authorities at your local masjid, so that you can get a good scope of what is, what it is actually considered the masjid or not there. And obviously, there is no sexual intercourse. Dhikr, making supplication, and reciting the Quran is permissible. So just reciting it out of her mouth, she's fine. But touching an actual mushaf, she can't do that. When her haid ends, she should check at least once every prayer time for whether her haid has ended. Every prayer time. Her haid ends either when she notices the bleeding has stopped, it is considered stopped if there is an emission of clear or whitish fluid, no more blood. To check this, she must insert a cloth lightly into her vaginal area to check for no traces of blood. She bleeds for more than the maximum duration of the time mentioned above, which we covered that. Praying. She must do ghusl before she can pray. She does not make up missed prayers due to haid. If her haid starts near sunset and she had not prayed Dhuhr or Asr yet, she does not need to make them up. Next scenario. If her haid starts near Fajr and she had not yet prayed Maghrib or Aisha, yet she does not need to make them up. If her haid starts near sunrise and she had not prayed Subh or Fajr, or before Fajr, she does not need to make it up. If her haid starts near sunrise and she had not yet prayed Subh, she does not need to make it up. If her haid ends during Asr time, she must pray Dhuhr and then pray Asr. But if there's not enough time to make ghusl and pray Dhuhr, in addition to one rak'ah of Asr before Asr time ends, then she prays only Asr and she would omit Dhuhr. But if there's not even enough time to make ghusl and pray even one rak'ah of Asr, then she does not pray Asr either. So it would be too late, and she would fall into that category of not being responsible of making those prayers. If her haid ends during Aisha time, she must pray Maghrib and then Aisha. But if there's not enough time to make ghusl, pray Maghrib and one rak'ah of Aisha before Aisha time ends, then she only prays Aisha. So same rule, like with Dhuhr and Asr. But if there's not even enough time to make ghusl and pray one rak'ah of Aisha before Aisha time ends, then she does not make Aisha either. Same, just like before we mentioned with Asr. Fasting. Missed fasts in Ramadan due to hayd are obligatory to make up. In Ramadan, the intention to fast should be renewed after her hayd ends. So if she made the obligatory intention to fast before the Ramadan started, and then she had her menses, and then her menses stopped, she must renew the niyyah. Very important to understand. If her hayd ends before Fajr rises, but she's unable to do ghusl before then, she should still start fasting that day and her fast will be valid as long as she intended to fast sometime between her menses ending and Fajr rising. So focus in on part. I know this is fiqh. It's kind of complicated, but we got to know this stuff. So memorize this stuff, play it back, rewind it if you need to, ask questions, whatever you got to do. If her hayd ends after sunrise, she does not fast and can eat for the rest of the day. Pretty simple. She must do ghusl to resume the other activities that were impermissible during her haid. The wisdom in this. It is understandable that a woman feels the rules of haid are complex, complicated, and daunting. Remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden a person, a man or woman, with what they cannot bear. So the fact he has obligated each individual woman to know these rules conveys that our creator understands our potential to grasp religious matters in this regard. Second, following these individual obligations is in and of itself a great worship like prayer, fasting, charity, and other acts of worship. You are taking the time to understand these rules, your calculation of what needs to be done. All of these things are great acts of worship. Third, for centuries, Muslim women around the world, from the Saharan desert to the Indonesian I don't even know this word, archipelago. Somebody correct me on that. I don't know the pronunciation of that word. But from to the depths of the wilderness, basically, is what he's trying to say. The educated among them and the illiterate learned, understood, and implemented the fifth you have just read. Learning and implementing the above is a means for us to reconnect with their legacy. More on the hikmah of fiqh and menstruation can be found in this article, and they put a link by traversing tradition. And then there was a footnote about there was a footnote, three footnotes, and we'll read those and conclude, inshallah ta'ala. Many scholars, especially in the more Western African countries, say a teacher or student who is on her menses can only teach a portion of the Quran, like an individual juz or section, and not the entire Mus'haf. Sheikh Zuhair Kazan, Hafidahullah, has said before that one should use a Mus'haf that has more tafsir or other things in it, so it is not actually considered a Mus'haf. Additionally, a Mus'haf on the phone is not considered a Mus'haf, so one can use their phone as well. Second, there is an opinion often mentioned that is completely forbidden for her husband to derive pleasure from her skin between the belly button and knees during her haid. Yet another opinion mentions that it is allowed for him to derive pleasure in this area, but not with his penis. Sheikh al-Burzuli narrates a third opinion. He says this issue was debated in front of Imam Ibn Arafah, excuse me, rahmatullah alayh, and the conclusion was that everything but sexual intercourse was halal. So Sheikh Zuhair Kazan, hafidhahullah, prefers this opinion as the most suitable for a husband, especially in today's age of fitna. Third, there's a small exception that will be mentioned in the future article. And shout out to Tariq, how do you say his name? Patanam and Hira Hashmi. And they are big students. And this was certified by Sheikh Zuhair. Alhamdulillah. So that is today's lesson. I have to go. I have to work. Alhamdulillah. So if y'all have any questions, inshallah ta'ala, just send them, and you can send them and submit them in the ladies group on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever y'all watching. You can submit them, inshallah ta'ala, and we will make sure and do our best to answer the questions. Tomorrow we will be back with another Love Talks Live. I will announce that I have two topics that I want to do. I'm not sure yet, but I'll announce the topic tomorrow morning. So y'all just keep a lookout for it, inshallah ta'ala. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. I love y'all for the sake of Allah. أقول قول هذا وأستغفر الله ولا إله إلا الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.